Hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing Green Lantern Rage of the Red Lanterns. Take a look at this comic cover right here. Now, Rage of the Red Lanterns is one of the last two story arcs before we get into Blackest Night. And this story takes place roughly around the time Final Crisis happens. References to Final Crisis is made into this story. In addition to that, the Rage of the Red Lantern issues were actually part of the Final Crisis satellite stories, the minor miniseries with the Final Crisis. Now, in this book, there's essentially two stories that kind of combine into one overall story. The first story deals with the Alpha Lanterns. Now, see, in the Sinestro Corp Wars, the Green Lanterns were allowed to use lethal force against the Sinestro Corp members. And this is something completely new to the Green Lanterns because they were never allowed to use lethal force at all against anyone. So this is a big change to the Green Lantern rules. However, this is a very vague rule, and many of the Green Lanterns have been abusing it. In one particular instance, at the very beginning of the story, a Green Lantern member outright kills a Sinestro Corps member defensively. It was pretty much murder. And because of this, the Guardians create the Alpha Lanterns, a police force within a police force. See, the Alpha Lanterns serve as the judge, jury, and executioners whenever it comes down to matters of the Green Lanterns, clarifying any rules and making sure that the Green Lanterns don't abuse their powers at all. Now, the Alpha Lanterns have been selected by the Guardians, and they're kind of a mix between the Manhunters, the Guardians' first pet toys, and the Green Lanterns themselves. They have been surgically altered in many ways, have all their internal organs removed, and instead they actually have a Green Lantern power battery in their chest. Now, see, the Alpha Lanterns are very cold and methodical, and they have all the powers that the Green Lanterns have too, and definitely much more stronger. So the first story really deals with the Alpha Lanterns and the changes within the Green Lantern Corps, because the Guardians have really been changing the Book of Oa, have really been changing the rules of the Green Lanterns, and they erect several other rules during this story arc. Now, the first part of the story ends with Sinestro being delivered to his homeworld to be executed. Now, that kind of ties into the second story, which continues the overall story. While Sinestro is being transported to his home world, the Green Lanterns are ambushed by the Red Lanterns. Now, the Red Lanterns is a completely new corps, which uses their powers based off rage. All the blood is taken out of their body and instead replaced by napalm. And they actually use the napalm to create constructs and various different attacks and weapons. They're not very organized, and they're pretty much mindless, raging drones, but they're powerful, and they're able to take the Green Lanterns by surprise and steal Sinestro for their own likings. They have their own plans for Sinestro. Now, after the attack by the Red Lanterns, the Blue Lantern Corps show up. The Blue Lantern Corps' special abilities are based off hope. Now, what's interesting about the Blue Lantern Corps is that while they can fly and stay alive in the vacuum of space, their powers are actually based off the Green Lantern powers in that they have to be close to a Green Lantern member for their powers to work, and their powers are meant to charge and help out the Green Lanterns. You'll see throughout the story many times how Jordan's power level go beyond 100%, into like 201% and stuff like that. So the Blue Lanterns have a completely different ability from any other Corps members that we have seen thus far. So, basically what needs to be done is the Green Lantern Corps needs to go and get Sinestro, because Sinestro is essential in the upcoming Blackest Night. It is Green Lanterns versus Red Lanterns with the Blue Lanterns in the mix, and Sinestro Corp is not that far behind. So with that said, I don't want to give away too much of the story, so let's get into the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. The first good is I really like the dialogue and the tension between Sinestro and Hal Jordan. See, Hal Jordan is very torn between whether or not Sinestro should be executed or not. See, Sinestro is more than just an enemy to Hal, but they actually have a mutual respect for each other. Hal considers Sinestro a friend, a mentor, a fellow Green Lantern, and an enemy. They've had quite a bit of a past, so he has very mixed feelings because, on one hand, Sinestro probably should get executed. I mean, he's done the most heinous of crimes. Whether or not Sinestro can justify it, and I believe in Sinestro's own head, he justifies what he's doing is right for the Green Lantern Corps, he's still doing horrible things. I mean, for all we know, Sinestro's probably drop-kicking babies behind our backs. We don't know, but we do know that Sinestro is basically not a good person. Again, despite whatever his beliefs are, or if the ends justify the means, it's pretty clear that he's doing bad stuff. So Hal Jordan is very torn because, you know, Sinestro is someone that he's had a close bond to in many different ways, as a mentor, as a friend, as a colleague, and as an enemy. And also, he understands that Sinestro needs to be put down. So he's very torn on what needs to be done. So I like the character dynamics between those two. I really like the Blue Lantern Corps out of all the corps that came out of this, because their power is so much different and unique to any other of the Lantern Corps that we've seen. They don't necessarily create constructs, they actually help out the Green Lantern. And I think that power is really cool. And I really wish they actually did a story arc that focused just on the Blue Lanterns. The Red Lanterns were actually pretty cool too. I wish they weren't so out of control, but I mean, Rage, so you know, you kind of have to go with it. So the Red Lanterns were kind of cool too. I also like the internal stuff with the Green Lanterns, how the Guardians are changing things around. Although they are emotionless, they seem to be pretty fucking scared of what's coming. So they're changing the Book of Oa in many different ways, as you'll see when you read this and the latest story, Agent Orange. On to the bad. Even though I liked both parts of this book, the Alpha Lanterns and the Red Lanterns, I felt as though they could have been separated and been two separate stories in separate volumes and actually had more issues put on to them. Now, I know Geoff Johns probably had constraints on how many issues he had before he has to go into Black Knight. However, I felt one or two more issues could have been used for the Alpha Lanterns, and one or two issues could have been used for the Rage of the Red Lantern story arc. Now, this is just a personal thing for me, and it doesn't necessarily take anything away from the story. I just felt as though I would have wanted more to each story. In addition to that, the Rage of the Red Lantern story was a little short. Again, this goes back to what I just said, but I felt as though they rushed it, and they really didn't establish the Red Lantern Corps as a real... They really didn't establish them that much as a corps. They could have done more with them. So that's a little downside too. But despite all that, the book is good. I enjoyed it. I was a little let down, but I still enjoyed it a lot. So I was hoping for like an A+ story, and I got like a B+. So it was still good. I still enjoyed it, but it didn't quite live up fully to my expectations. It does leap off on a cliffhanger. It goes directly into Agent Orange. So if you read this, I recommend you buy Agent Orange right afterwards and read that. Keep the story going. And if you're definitely reading anything Blackest Night, or you're reading anything Geoff Johns, you definitely should pick up the Rage of Red Lantern. It's essential to the Green Lantern reading list. So with that said, Rage of the Red Lanterns, fun story. Could have been a little bit better, but still definitely worth picking up. With that said, this is Andrew saying peace out for now.